My name is John Hench. Today I'll be presenting on cortisone and rheumatoid arthritis. Little preface, I'm not an expert in this topic by any means, but I have a lot of great family history rooted in these two topics that I'd like to share with you guys today. So what is rheumatoid arthritis? Well, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder characterized by inflammation, rapid inflammation that deteriorates the bone structure, specifically in the synovial membrane, which encapsulates the cartilage and provides lubrication for the cartilage. When that becomes inflamed, you have bone erosion, which can lead to disformity of the joints as seen in the hands right here. So what is an autoimmune disease? Well, an autoimmune disease is characterized when the body attacks healthy cells. Now, unfortunately, these diseases tend to not be curable, and they normally come from mutations or from external viruses in the case of HIV, for example. So what is inflammation? Because this is really important to understanding what rheumatoid arthritis is. Well, inflammation is an immune response to any sort of tissue damage. So you stub your toe, well, here's what happens. Blood cells will rush to the area, making the blood veins widen, and then you have fluid release in tissues, which causes swelling, pain, redness, heat, all that kind of stuff that's normally associated with inflammation. And then you have leukocytes, which are white blood cells, which are there to fight off any form of infection. So the solution to that was done by my great-grandfather and a few other noticeable chemists. In 1930 through 1938, doctors Edward Kendall and Thaddeus Reichstein isolated a compound E at the time, called cortisone. In 1948, my great-grandfather tested it on patients with severe rheumatoid arthritis, and it was seen to give them aid and provide them a nice little way to deal with that inflammation. In 1950, there was a mass production of cortisone, and now it's widely used all around the world. So here's some pictures. I don't know. Do I look like the guy? You tell me. And then here are the other two guys. So, and here in my home, we have the first ever usage of cortisone, pretty cool, and then we have some oral and injectable versions. These are 75 years old. Do not take them. So what is cortisone? Well, as I explained earlier, it's a naturally occurring corticosteroid. Big word, don't worry, it just means it's a steroid produced in the adrenal cortex, which I will get into later. And it reduces that inflammation. It can be taken topically, orally, or it can be injected into the body. And it usually provides the patient with month-long relief, ranging from 1 month all the way to 6 months. It's very affordable. Without insurance, $25 to $300. With insurance, it can be maybe $10, depends. And there are some risks with large dosages. Normally, we try to let the patient not have more than 3 dosages a year because you can lead to actually harming the body even more. So in moderation, it's a miracle drug. So where does it come from? Well, as I said earlier, it comes from the adrenal cortex, which is located above the kidneys in the adrenal glands. And here's a little easy synthesization of it. It's really complex, but I tried to hone down the major details for you guys because we're probably not chemists in here. But so basically, it starts with cholesterol. Now everyone thinks of cholesterol as a bad thing. It's actually really important. It's used for synthesization of a lot of important steroids and hormones. Then it converts into pregnenolone, which is a hormone synthesizer, and then progesterone, which is a sex hormone, and then it becomes cortisone. So how does it reduce inflammation then? Well, we have 2 things in the body that start inflammation. We have cytokines and prostaglandins. Cortisone inhibits the production of those 2 things because cytokines, you can think of them as a signaling protein. Whenever you stub your toe or you hurt yourself, the cytokines tell the body, hey, something happened, let's go investigate. So they initiate the prostaglandins to go and send everything to that area, such as the white blood cells, the red blood cells, all of that will deal with the pain, which then causes inflammation. So by inhibiting the 2 things, we get rid of them. So back to this autoimmune nature. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, cortisone is an autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease, which means there is no cure for it. But there are things that we can do to moderate that that autoimmune nature. So we can use these things called immunosuppressants, which will kind of reduce the immune system, but it's a double-edged sword because by numbing down the immune system, you also are more prone to external diseases and other diseases. So generally it's not used for rheumatoid arthritis, but also, and another thing with the autoimmune disease is that it can hijack the body, as I said earlier. So there are a variety of things that can occur that your body will do to kind of prevent that cortisone, that naturally occurring substance, from helping your body. So as I said earlier, the cortisone is produced in the adrenal cortex. Normally it's not enough for rheumatoid arthritis, and the autoimmune nature of the disease can just inhibit the production of cortisone. Or you may need a higher tolerance for it, requiring larger dosages, which is generally not advised. So it's a very delicate subject, and you have to take it very seriously. Each patient is a very different person. Some can handle larger doses, some can't handle larger doses. And finally, I just want to say some things about the impact of this miracle drug. 95% of patients feel better after it. Now, it may take a week to set in, but it truly is a miracle drug because many older people suffer from arthritis, maybe it be osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Well, cortisone is there to make you feel better. And on top of that, millions of Americans receive it every year, which is brilliant. You have people that are suffering from these diseases that can go in, get something relatively affordable that will provide them a pain-free experience for a matter of months, just through one shot, which is truly amazing. And here I have a little excerpt. I'll get to this in a little second, but it's just something that my great-grandfather wrote that I thought was really interesting. I'll come back to that in a second, but anyways, that's all. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Any questions?
So I've had cortisone shots for severe arthritis, and my experience and experience that I heard from other people, but it's all anecdotal. I don't have any like firm medical insurance. The first time you get a cortisone shot, it's amazingly effective, and then the second one is also effective, but not as effective, and there's sort of this tapering off effect over time. Is that documented? Is that just, like I said, is that anecdotal, or is that something that people have absolutely seen over time?
Oh, absolutely, because as I said earlier, the body kind of responds differently, and you can develop a tolerance, and cortisone is a very highly concentrated version of this origination in the body. So nowadays there's a lot of synthetic options which are really powerful and potent, but it does taper off. But those first couple of months, it definitely makes you feel a lot better. It does taper off. Everybody is different. So, I can't speak on behalf of everyone. So it's really a case-by-case basis, but you are right in that regard. Yeah?
Do you know how the cortisone stays in the body for months long? Because I feel like most drugs you kind of take them and it's pretty quick action, while here does it stay in the blood?
Well, unfortunately, I do not know the answer to that question, but I do know that it inhibits the production of those drugs, of those molecules, and it does that because it's injected straight to the area of pain. So it stays more localized in that area. It doesn't spread. Now, rheumatoid arthritis can spread to other parts of the body, but when you get a shot, it's localized. So it stays in that area, and they do it in between the cartilage. In the case of rheumatoid arthritis, it's within the synovial membrane, which is encapsulated. So it kind of stays localized in that area, and that's why it's able to stay there for a long time, because it's not being flushed out by other things, like if it were in the bloodstream or if it were taken orally, for example, then it probably wouldn't have a very long effect on the body. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, can cortisone be used to treat other autoimmune diseases, like for example lupus targets more like the body's tissues, whereas rheumatoid arthritis attacks specifically joints?
Yeah, cortisone is used for any form of inflammation. So you have these things. There are a bunch of diseases that specialize with inflammation, like bursitis, which is overflowing of fluids in the capsule, like knees, shoulders. I know it can treat gout. I don't know what lupus is, so I can't answer that directly. But any sort of inflammatory disease that is unregulated, cortisone is really effective at treating.
So it doesn't necessarily matter that if it just it doesn't necessarily matter that it affects the joint specifically, just any sort of.
Well, normally arthritis and inflammation is in the joints, so it is specialized for that. but I'm sure you could use it for other forms of inflammation, but its main priority is elbows, shoulders, knees. I don't know if it would really help if you had inflammation on your thigh and you injected it there. It's kind of used for more bony structures, less tissue. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys for listening.
Now, you said you had something to say about an excerpt up there?
Oh, yeah, I left it up just so you guys could read it. Actually, I'll get back into that. Thank you for reminding me. So this is an excerpt from my great-grandfather writing to a patient. Now, it might be a little hard to read, but the gist of it is that they had no idea how cortisone worked, which is really funny, but it worked. So if you can read that, the first lines say, how do these hormones work to relieve arthritis and other diseases? I wish we knew precisely. So it's really interesting how research works, right? They didn't even know if it would, how it works, but they were able to figure out that it does work. Really cool.